Hello Year 8. So in this lesson all you need, hand, pencil and a piece of paper. And we're going to do a lesson based on hands and holding a tool or something from your pencil case. It's fine. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do, if I just show you here, is put your hand down and just simply draw around your hand. It's going to get a bit more complicated than this later, but this is like a warm-up exercise. Just like in PE, you do a warm-up to get your body ready. So we're getting our minds ready for a drawing lesson. So when we look at the picture of the hand, first thing we notice is, you probably know this, but just to remind ourselves, the fingers are different lengths. The index finger is the longest, these two are slightly smaller, this one is again slightly smaller but also thinner, and then you have the thumb over here with that gap in between. So we're just going to think about the structure of the hand. But you're going to do it a bit more complicated today. You're going to actually have the hand holding, and you're going to have something inside your hand. So we're going to use maybe a Pritt stick, or you could use a pair of scissors, however complicated you want to make it. I would just suggest something simple from your pencil case will be fine. And you just place it in your hand and curl your fingers slightly over, so we no longer have the flat profile of your fingers. Now you can now just turn your page over, work on the other side if you want to, so you're not wasting paper. At this point I'm going to point the camera down so you can see a close-up. I'll keep talking. As you can probably tell, this is pre-recorded, but I am also live in the stream, so if you have any questions you can ask me and I will go over those things during the lesson, okay? This will take about 10 minutes in the demonstration. So I'm just going to move the camera now so you can see the paper better. Okay, so we have the object. I'm going to use a Pritt stick. We get the paper ready. First thing you do is you are going to draw very light. I'm going to draw a bit harder because it's pointless me drawing something you can't see. But if you draw light, remember sketch, that means you won't put any marks that you can't easily rub out if you need to. So I'm pushing down slightly harder here, so hopefully you can see something of what I'm doing. Okay, so first of all, when we're drawing things, it's easier to start off with fairly straight in geometric shapes. So I'm just drawing a square shape. I'm imagining I can see through that, a square shape of the palm of the hand, a quite oblong shape of the wrist. I won't bother about the clothing for now. Deciding roughly where the object will be and just sketching that in. Obviously again I'm pushing down a bit harder so you can see. I'm imagining I've got X-ray vision here, so I'm thinking the fingers would be coming from here and they would be curling over themselves. So this finger would come up and would bend over that section and then come down. Now if we think about the joints, this joint is smaller, then it gets longer, then it gets longer again. So we can roughly work out, yeah, that's smaller, that's slightly longer, so I need to adjust that, and this is longer still. I'm going to take this down. Think about the gaps in between, not just the actual fingers. So I'm going to draw this lovely gap here, and it comes up, and put a construction lines helpful as well to think about the angle of the hand. So the construction lines to think about where the fingers bend. That finger I'm going to say is bending about there. This joint on that finger is around about here. It's level with the top of that one. And then the last joint. Now your drawing, when you draw like this, it will actually start off a lot messier than if you just draw the actual outline. When you put all these construction lines in, naturally it doesn't look as refined to begin with, but you'll get a much more accurate drawing. So again here, we've got the small one there. And I'm going to imagine X-ray vision, it would come down behind there. This joint is higher than that one, so that was actually slant up a bit. Don't be worried about self-correcting, you know, you're supposed to be correcting and changing things as you go along. And then this finger, again, I can see that that point of the finger is level with this one. So I can think about my construction lines and put the finger in there. Very loose, free marks, quite geometric, like oblong shapes at the moment. I know fingers aren't like that. Now, as I've done that, I've realised, look, even as an art teacher who's been teaching for years, I'm realising that actually I want my Pritt stick to slope up a little bit. So I'm going to adjust that as well. And that finger will come in a bit more over there. So it's a working drawing. Okay. And in this thumb here, how is it resting on that object? Think about things in relation, so I can see that joint is level with this joint here. I can do a construction line going across. Okay, so very simple, confident lines coming down to the wrist, goes quite straight up there, slopes in. Okay, so I've got a rough outline, very bold, kind of almost mechanical looking picture of the hand. Now, you had done this very light. Now you've done the first section, just drawing over the whole area. Don't be tempted to go back and correct a little area too much, because you might find, like me, that actually, when you look at things in proportion, you know, if I'd have drawn a Pritt stick correctly, for example, really detailed, I might have realised, oh, it's not there, it's like this, a bit bigger and at a bit different angle, and then you don't want to rub it out because you spent so long drawing it. Okay, so just work over the whole picture first. Then you can go back and choose what area you want to start defining. I'm going to actually now go in and decide exactly what is happening with this Pritt stick. So I'm looking a little bit at an angle so I can see the circle bit, this here. So whatever object you're drawing, whether it's a pencil, a pen, pair of scissors or a Pritt stick like me, don't just draw the object, think about the angle. So all of these slopes would be the same. Parallel lines. Yeah? I'm still going to keep it quite linear. I might put a little bit of shading on, so pushing down hard and coming out just to get rid of some of those construction lines. You could use your rubber a little bit at this point if you want to. Okay, so it just isn't quite so confusing. So that's my object. But the important thing that we're doing here is the hand. Now try and keep your hand as still as possible, because if you move it, obviously you're not drawing from observation, and we really want to test what we're looking at. So I'm now going to start working into this finger here. I can now make it a little bit smoother because I am more confident about where things are going. I can add details. So at this point I'm going to say, right, that bit actually slopes up for the thumbnail. This slopes out a little bit for that joint in the thumb. There would be a bone coming out here. Think about the wrinkles in the skin. So this is folding over. I can see some quite defined lines coming into the thumb here. You might find as you draw your hand, because you're exaggerating everything, your hand will look like a hand of a slightly older person. That's quite common. Don't worry about that. I just want to see that you're really studying what a hand looks like. So I can now smooth those areas out. It's up to you whether you put the clothing on. I don't mind about that. Okay, so again, I'm not going to work into this area too much because it might be that I change it later. Just going to add a little bit of tone in. Okay, so let's come around here now. You can either use gradual shading like this and maybe blend it in a bit, or some people like to use a bit of cross hatch to suggest the shadow. Let's smooth this little bit out. Okay, so this finger here, I'm going to work into the fingernail, sorry, with the little finger. This joint is the smallest one. And get rid of any lines I don't want to and define it. See, I've now decided it doesn't quite go up to there. I'll just fade that out. I want to cut it down. Sometimes cutting ½ centimetre off can actually make the drawing make a lot more sense. Now remember, the angle you're looking at this will be slightly different to the angle I'm looking at it, so it will change a little bit from what you can see as compared to what I can see. I can see more of an angle, whereas if I was looking from there, I wouldn't see it. Okay, so be genuine to what you can see. Now again, even with all the details, so on this finger, I'm going to bring this down slightly to touch the object that I'm drawing. The fingernail gets slightly bigger. Okay. This joint is the same there, but it gets a bit bigger as well because that finger is a larger size. And then I'm going to emphasise the bend here, the shadows behind. Okay, and then just re-evaluating. Yeah, I think I was pretty good on that, maybe just down slightly. Okay. It is a challenging thing. They say hands are some of the most challenging things to actually draw, so don't worry if you're making mistakes. That shows that you're really questioning what you're seeing. If you send me a picture where you've got lots of corrections with the lines and things that went wrong or didn't quite work and then you corrected them, I'll actually be more happy than if I just see a picture that looks like you just maybe traced it off of a book or something like that. I want to see that you're really looking for yourself. Okay, so it will be like a working drawing. Now I think use your pencil as a guide. I think that finger actually bends over a bit more, like that. Okay. And then final finger, I've actually moved it a bit, so as I was talking I was getting distracted, so be careful about that. I'm going to draw it where it is now, so it comes like that. Now that finger is actually kind of slightly nearer to me, so in fact it looks slightly bigger anyway, because when things are obviously near to you they come out a little bit. Some artists like to emphasise that more. I'm just blending those out because I don't need those. I'm going to shade those in. Now you're going to keep on working into this. See how I just changed that there and made that more straight, and it seems to make a whole lot more sense of that whole finger. But sometimes just tweaking and rethinking things when it doesn't look quite right and you're not sure why, just rethinking it can make a big difference. Now what you might want to do, if things have got a little bit messy and you can't really see what you're doing, sometimes it's quite useful just to take the edge of your pencil there and just shade out the background, just so the hand really pings out. We no longer need those. Like I said, if you leave them on, I really don't mind. I'll be impressed that you thought about the angles and you were really listening to my demonstration. But if they bother you, or you really just want to concentrate on the actual hand, then do that. One thing I'd bear in mind is if you're working by yourself at home, if you're doing this, your pencil is going to get blunt, and then you're going to have to sharpen it one-handed, which isn't great. So either have another pencil on standby, or have a friend just to kind of work that out for you. Okay, so now I'm getting a bit more confident. This hand is looking a bit more like a genuine hand. Still some things I'm not happy about, so I'm going to work into those now. Sometimes things can just look odd because there's no tone in it. Like at the moment this looks really quite not right. If I was to tone that back a little bit, then this finger just seems to actually be more of a right angle. Okay, it's up to you if you have an object with writing on it. It's up to you if you put the writing on or not. I don't really mind. I just want to see something like a hand holding an object. So it's up to you how far you go with that. I don't mind. Maybe just a little suggestion of detail would be good. And the strongest bit of advice I can give with this is to keep working over the whole picture. Don't be tempted to finish one little area because you'll just get a little bit too precious about your work and you'll find it harder to actually correct your mistakes. So that's my first advice, keep working over the whole area and build it up and build it up and build it up. My second bit of advice is sketch lightly first. Don't just go in dark. I have gone in a bit dark here because I want you to see what I'm doing on the camera, and if you spend 20 minutes seeing me sketch it first, that's not very helpful because you won't see much. So do it, sketch it first, okay? So move over the whole picture and sketch it first. Final bit of advice I really suggest you do is to question everything you're doing. We're doing on observational drawings, so we're not just thinking, oh yeah, I know what a hand looks like. you're going back in and you are correcting it. So you can correct it in a more linear style, so dominant lines like this, or, and maybe a bit of both, adding some tone in as well. Tone is good to show form, and it's also good, like you see with me here, to get rid of bits that just seem to have distracted from the real drawing because they weren't quite right. Yeah? So please feel free, I can see a couple of you put questions in that which I'm going to respond to in the stream. Then I will respond to those. So if I see you asking questions, I'll be typing away. Obviously my hands are doing this, but it's pre-recorded, but I'll be responding to your questions because I know that's what you'll do. So, I love art. I could keep doing this all day and like working away at it now, but sometimes it's good to time yourself. Now you've got other lessons in your timetable, so this lesson is going to last, after this demonstration finishes, it will last another 35 minutes or so. Okay, and when you've finished that, I want you to take a picture of your drawing, of you holding an object, and send it in to me. Okay? So, let's just move the camera up slightly, just to finish off. Okay, so this is your task today then, a drawing of a hand holding some sort of object. It's a challenging task for your first lesson back, but I think it's an interesting one, quite an enjoyable one, because it challenges you. You're not just copying, and if it's a mess but you've tried hard, you know, hopefully you remember this, you've had me for a whole year, I'm happy with that. I want you to think and test yourself in what you're drawing. Okay, if you find it hard, maybe we'll look back at it next week. So don't worry about how it turns out. Okay, just give it a go. Okay, hope you enjoy this, and we look forward to seeing what you do in your first lesson. Take care, bye-bye.